Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the podcast to help you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person of your dream, make billions of dollars. I can't quite lock in those last two, but all the rest of them we feel good about. And I love that you guys keep watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartMedia, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you get your podcasts. And the reason this show works, at least to me, is because I have people on that walk the walk. Their best, most true, authentic, and there is no exception today. In fact, I'm really happy about this. Jim Butz, author, finance guy, dad, husband, a three-time fitness advocate, and I'll explain more what I mean about that in a moment, who has transformed his body, and I've watched the progress, and it's great to see. Jim, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So I had the pleasure, folks, of meeting Jim in person because Jim was kind enough to include me on his financial podcast in the neighborhood, which I love to death because, as I said, I had never seen a podcast that was somewhat of a takeoff in a great way on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And so I got to do that. And it's not even returning the favor. There's so many cool things that I get to talk about with Jim today. Jim, talk to me, like I said, right away in regards to, look, we're going to talk about your book a lot.
Sure.
I think one of the nice things about it is not just my admiration of the fact that you completed this, is that you know how to complete things. I think that's incredible. But the fact that you took it on at all is amazing. Right off the bat, before we delve into it, why did you feel like you needed to write a book?
All along, my whole life, I've always been a self person, you know, not really a loner because I've always had a lot of friends and I've always had a lot of people around me, but I haven't really had a lot of what I would call mentors or role models, which meant a whole lot of failure and a whole lot of mistakes that I had to make because I really didn't look to anyone. I joke around a lot. I started a business when I was 17. I started a restaurant and there was no internet and there was no anything like that. So literally when I was 17 years old, if I wanted information, I had to go to the library and go into a card catalog and do research and find it all out. Or I had to just wing it and make mistakes and get fined and get whatever, you know. So
Fined or whatever.
Fined, sued, whatever.
Whatever.
Whatever. But as I got older, I felt like I really wanted to help out people in the situation, whether it's business or recovery or life or all these other things. And as I've gotten older, the things that I've accomplished, whether it's financial or whatever else, the stuff that I get the most amount of satisfaction from is the personal stuff, you know.
Okay.
Whether it's recovery or, you know, talking to someone and having them come to me and say, this part of what you said changed my life, or this part of what you said helped me get through to the next part of my life. And the amount of gratitude that I feel for the people that actually did that for me later on in recovery and stuff like that, I thought if I could be that for people, that feeling is way better than when I've made large checks on transactions or stuff like that. So I figured if I can combine those two things, figure out how to make a little bit of a living helping people, that would be the greatest thing. Like people say, if you can figure your career that you want to do, if you love crocheting or whatever,
Yeah.
then great. If I could help people and also figure out a way to pay my bills with it, that'd be the best thing ever. So I figured, let me try it out. And at the very worst, I'll just help people. Even if I don't make any money doing it, I'll help people.
So I love the fact you brought up I'm even going to go a little further back than 17. I love the fact that you were an entrepreneur early on, in the fact that either between the Topps trading cards and or the paper route, and the fact is you describe all right. So folks, I felt like, not to turn this into a me thing, nobody needs that, but I was going to say that there were so many parts that were relatable to me about your story, and the story comes from the book. So Optimizing Failure, folks, by the way, is the larger title of the book, readily available, but you described getting the tips. And I don't know why, that just, to me, I could feel that. You're a little kid at the time, right?
Yeah.
So you ain't 17. How old were you?
10, 11, around that age.
Wow. I was 13 and I felt like that was young. All right, go ahead, man.
when I was 13, I was already working full time. But when you're 10 or 11, I wanted stuff. You know what I mean? And my mom was a single mom who was working all the time. And if I wanted to buy baseball cards, I wasn't trying to wait for her to come around and get them. I wanted to have my own money, So the only thing I could do then was shovel sidewalks when it snowed, or do a newspaper route. So I got a newspaper route, and I drove my bike around and went there, picked it up every day, and then on Friday or Saturday, when you went to collect your tips, that was, like the highlight, the crescendo of everything, when you got to actually collect and get the fruit of your labor,
How many Christmas tips did you ever, not the dollar amount, how many times did you collect Christmas tips?
You know what? I don't really. I was like, so
I only did it once, right? I only did it once. And I was going to say, it's just a really cool feeling. I actually retired from the paper route after collecting one round of Christmas tips.
I remember, but I remember being really upset at people. Like, I'm coming Friday at 3:00 for my money. You read the paper all week too. I got people, because they used to do the little tear tabs. I don't know if you had the same thing, but you would tear the tab off and hand it to them when they paid for it. So I'm looking on there, I'm like, man, they're 3 weeks back. I got 3 tear tabs here. These guys been reading my newspaper for 3 weeks and they haven't paid me. I'm like, don't duck me, like that Better Off Dead movie. I want my $2, I feel like chasing people around. I'm like, come on.
That's what we were talking about. That it's that level of effort, and you were an 11-year-old kid and needing to, like I said, dun people for $2. But I admire the effort. Here's another thing that resonated to me, man, early on, which was when the nun in Catholic school, what was it, the Iowa tests, I think? I don't remember that, right?
Yeah.
And the nun was grilling you about not applying. This guy, folks, if I read correctly, was in the 97 and 98 percentile of what they consider, and they treated this thing, and I love the way you say it in the book, as almost like in that sort of hushed tone of importance.
Yeah.
But that's great. But it was the part that really stuck with me is the nun grilling you into that you're not applying yourself. Why don't you? You know what the most chilling part was to me? When they say your full name.
Yeah, all the time.
Including the middle name. Something not good's coming.
Yeah, if they go, because I have a junior also. I'm James Francis Butz Jr. When they hit all 4 of them, oh man, you were in trouble. You did something wrong there, for sure. And I don't know what it was about school. I just didn't. I didn't dig school. You know what I mean? Like I didn't. Not that I wanted to be. I didn't have like visions of being a juvenile delinquent.
Right.
But I just didn't like school, and I couldn't get over the concept that I was there for 8 hours and then they wanted more from me after that. I was cool with it was like a job or like a jail term. I was cool with putting my 8 hours a day in, but then you want me to go home and do homework and concentrate on, like, you already had me for that time. I wasn't gonna I had, fantasy world to live in and baseball cards to sort and all these other things to do. So I didn't want to give them more time than what they had. And they would constantly harass me about, are you're not applying yourself. You don't take this seriously. You don't go. And I just, I didn't.
You think that kind of finger wagging propelled you into some future decisions? And I don't necessarily mean like the good ones. I wonder, and there's a recurring theme that I'm thinking about in regards to these voices that are insisting you do something, or maybe they see something. Maybe, like in that case, they saw something that you were not giving yourself credit for. All of that's the simple question would be more of this, which is, do you think it propelled you into the more entrepreneurial stuff, like back off, I'm going to just open Pizza Mia and or Jimmy's Wings and things, do you think it propelled you to say, hell with you, I'm doing this?
I think that was kind of always there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like even like my mom will tell a story about me being 5 years old or something, and trying to get out of trouble and trying to do these things. And she would say, don't you dare do this. And I would think of 3 different ways to get what I wanted and still follow her rules by not doing the things she told. I just have always had a problem with authority. I have always had a problem with authority. And I've always had a problem with people doubting me. The first person that says, you won't, or you can't, I'm like, watch. You know what I mean? Like, don't. The minute I told somebody I wanted to open up a restaurant, they said, you're 17, you can't open up a restaurant.
It's done open up restaurants, right? Yeah.
It's done. It's already there. When I was 18 and I had the pizza place, and people would say, oh, you can't be in high school and own a pizza place. And I was like, I'm doing it. Watch, you'll see. It's already done, and I think that's been a blessing and a curse, 100%.
Right.
Because I at a lot of points in my time, especially in my younger years, I would do that to my detriment. I would go to prove a point, regardless of whether it benefited me or not, just to shove it up. You know what I mean? And now, as I've gotten older, I just choose more healthy things to defy the norm with, rather than the stuff that would get you in trouble or may not be the best decision.
Folks, one of the primary reasons that I wanted Jim on the show today was, you just kind of summed it up, so to speak, was that sense that I promise you that this episode is not going to be some sad sack, and then this happened and that happened. It's amazing to me the level of successes, including, I think you're one of the only people that I know that have done 75 hard 3 times successfully. But because the whole purpose of the book is reminding people that you can and likely should fail at some things. You okay? Did I go through a couple that you outlined, so I'm not pulling anything out of the sky, and to me, like I said, again, I feel like that it gives people hope. So the things are, you go through this, you're still a kid. And I still say, because I just think of 17-year-old people now and I look at them, I'm not minimizing you or your skill set. I just picture if you were in the present tense and you were standing around a bunch of 17, you'd call them kids, So
I have a 17.
You have a 17, exactly. Dad 7 times over, folks. But here's what I was going to say, which is that it's like, so you get in trouble legally. You get in trouble in regards to a number of things. We talked about, like I said, one of the things, addiction, alcoholism, and recovery. And I always, that's, by the way, folks, as a reminder, that's me, So Jim, what got you down the path? And more importantly, what got you out?
So there was a bunch of different things, and as I've gotten older and developed things and peeled the onion away, I've learned more stuff about it. but the real quick
Mm-hmm.
synopsis of it was, I had a business that failed,
Mm-hmm.
due to some outlying reasons, and I got kind of lied to and screwed over by some adults in my life
Right.
as I was 17,
Mm-hmm.
um, 18 years old, and some town councilmen and landlords lied and screwed me out of some money. And at the same time, my two best friends passed away. One of them killed himself, and the other one drowned. So I kind of got into a little bit of the self medication
Mm-hmm.
with drugs, and also the 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 mentality of, look, I tried to do all this legally. I tried to do all this opening up a business. I tried to do all this working 50 hours a week and doing all this. And you adults screwed me over. So now I'm going to make money. I'm going to sell drugs because
I'm going to make money. So
yeah, I'm
there you
I'm
go.
gonna make money.
Right.
This one didn't work. I'd rather do it easier anyway. You've already told me that doing it the right way isn't gonna be appropriated by the adults around me, so I'm gonna do it my way. And then, I got arrested for selling drugs, and it continued for a couple years past that. I didn't get clean until I was 25, but there were other businesses and other failures and other things with combined. There wasn't one thing, it was layered of, looking back now, I had no coping skills. I had no real life way to deal with things. I put chemicals in my body to deal with emotions, whether they were good or bad or positive or negative, whatever it was. And just got to a point in my life where I had to get away from that, or I had my 5-year-old daughter was basically the motivation for it. I talk about it a lot.
Yep.
She turned 5. Her mom was dating a policeman. I was driving home from the bar at 3 o'clock in the morning on all kinds of chemicals, and said that I was going to live a certain way because I came from a broken family with just a one parent family. And I was just remember thinking that I was raising or attempting to raise my daughter. Her mom wasn't really in her life as much. It was me. It was more my mom in reality. My mom was doing a lot of the work, but I was the main custodial parent. I was like, my daughter is going to be ashamed that I'm her father. That's going to be the end result, whether it's I get in an accident, I hurt somebody, I get arrested or something. There's going to come a point in time really, really soon where she's going to be ashamed that I'm her dad if I don't change what I'm doing right now. And that was the main motivation for it.
I'm just always damn grateful. Like I said, I had fingers wagged at me when I drank. Did plenty of drugs too, but really my main crutch was alcoholism, because that's the one I couldn't stop. And it was also the one that I never had a desire to stop. And I think that's what made it so rough. The other ones I just didn't want to do anymore, so I didn't. So that's why I say that. And it was like, and I could still remember all the fingers being wagged at me, and it felt horrific, but not enough for me to do anything about it. I pushed back on them more so than I did. And you reference several people in the book that also helped get your attention in regards to that. Curtis being one of them, if memory serves me correctly.
Sure.
And it's like there's a series of people, and folks, when you read the book, one of the things that I noticed that I loved is there's these series of people that come along that certainly add to the equation. And while none of them made decisions for you, it's really cool that you identified like these points of influence. So you decide to make the call. Your daughter is the catalyst or the impetus or whatever. What keeps you there?
Well,
that was a long time ago, man. So, right?
There was a lot of things. There were a bunch of different just changes and focus changes. I was exposed to 12-step meetings when I was 18 years old because I was a felon.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to stay out of prison, I had to go to 12-step meetings for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the condition of it, go for 4 years, and it wound up being 5 years because I tested positive a couple times.
Right.
And I sat in these meetings and I listened to people talk.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was I listened until I found one thing that didn't match up with me. And then I excluded myself. I was like, oh yeah, it didn't matter that the other 27 things that they said were exactly me. It was the one thing that they said where they were like, oh, and then I stuck a needle in my neck and I'm like, that's right. I'm not you. Yeah, man, I don't belong here. You guys are a bunch of assholes. I'm out, And then when I was what they refer to all the time as spiritually bankrupt, when I was broken and I was just determined to just be different and to change, because it's hard to say without sounding, I don't know what the word is, but I always felt special and I always felt different. I never really felt like I fit in. I always felt special and I always felt like I was meant to do something really, really awesome. Like even as a kid, I knew I was smart. I knew I was this and that. And I knew that I was missing that opportunity. And I knew that at the time, I could be anything I wanted to be if I could just stop doing drugs. I could be an astronaut. I could be a doctor. I could be a lawyer. I could be anything in the world that I set my mind to do if I just stopped doing drugs. But the next thought always was, but that's never going to happen. I can't stop doing drugs.
Okay.
So once I got into the change of the mindset and started to somewhat apply myself, once I had like literally, I don't know, maybe it was less than a month, 10, 15,
wow. Okay.
17 days clean. I was like, I can't believe I haven't put a drug in my body for 17 days. Cause I was the classic Monday, I'm going to stop. That's what I said that like from 17 to 25.
Yep.
So I would do the Friday, Saturday, Sunday shuffle. Friday, I go out and spend a bunch of money. I get a bunch of drugs. I'm going to get it all out of my system and live it up, blah, blah, blah. And then
on Monday morning,
I would be kind of shaky. By Tuesday, maybe I made it to Wednesday. You know what I mean? But I was always gone. And this time it was like, I can't believe it's been 2 weeks since I really put a chemical in my body. Like nothing, not like, oh, I'm just doing, because I also did the different chemical shuffle. I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to smoke weed after 7 p.m. I'm not going to do this or that, blah, blah, blah. And I was just so amazed that I could stay clean. It was never really a possibility in my mind. And once it happened for a little bit, I was like, I'm doing whatever it is. It was like, I joke around with Curtis when I spoke to him all the time. It was like the Daniel and Mr. Miyagi thing. I was like, whatever you need me to do. You want me to come to your house and paint your cars and sand your deck and do it? I'm there. Whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do. Because I can't believe you've guided me to not put a chemical in my body for this long. And that lasted for, I don't know, probably 2 years or so. I was just they talk about pink cloud recovery stuff.
Oh, right.
I was pink cloud for years and I didn't really care. You could say whatever you want, whatever. I was like, I am not getting high. I am not putting a chemical in that. I'm not a slave to that anymore. I don't hate myself anymore. All the rest of the stuff is all gravy. I'm not, and honestly, 25 years later, I still kind of feel the same way. Like this is all gravy. You know what I mean?
Right. So you built the infrastructure, and that to me, it may be an odd choice of words, but you laid the foundation, built the infrastructure, did the work is the cliche term, but you know what I mean? But it's all true. So that I'm a big believer, I didn't get pulled in within 2 weeks. So God love you, man. You got like to me, that's great. It was a lot longer for me. But I love the fact that, as I said, it's like, okay, so you build it so that when you weren't necessarily having great days after, say, 2 years, that it would be like, all right, but I've got all of this information, work, thought process, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, right here, so that you didn't go necessarily heading out the door, as opposed to when you described finding a reason to not be there, like the guy with the needle in the neck and all. You know what I mean? It was like, so I feel like that's a big takeaway for you in general, is that you've never shied away from the work ever in anything, it seems like, and that's
one of the things, real quick, I just want to point out, one of the big things that Curtis told me that changed my perception was, look for similarities, not differences. Start focusing on everything that you relate to, and that hits you in the heart, rather than the 2 or 3 things that you don't relate to. And when I started to focus on the pain, and the guilt and the shame and all these things that people felt, and that's when I was like, okay, I do belong here. Whether there's a couple different words in the story, whether there's a couple different drugs that people did, whether they did it this way or that way, the pain and the guilt and the shame and the death feeling at the end of the night kind of thing, that was the similarity that kept me stuck in there. And I was like, okay, it doesn't matter that you stuck a needle in your neck and I stuck shit up my nose, or we did this and whatever. I don't really care. You could have huffed airplane glue for all I care about. It made you feel like shit and you wanted to die at the end of it. We are the same, no matter what the chemical is.
I love it. It's such an empowering story, man, especially when you say celebrate, like I said, celebrate what's in common rather than push away the differences. Now, I mean, you now have this foundation, and now you're going to move forward professionally and personally as well, too. And I love, it sounds like an odd choice of words, I love your transparency, we'll say, in regards to, even with this, it's the resiliency that you have shown, because you've also set up other ventures, whether it is in finance, whether it is, I listen, anyone who throws Snoop Dogg's name around, I had to. It's just like I'm such like fanboy. Like, and this is a business thing. You have finance in your blood, so you do that. And you also weathered a terrible financial crash that a lot of people had to weather, but you weathered it personally in 2008. What got you through that when that was happening?
So there's a couple answers to that. The main answer is my daughter Kylie. She's 17 now. When she was a baby, like as in 1, 2, and 3. I had every day for years. It was horrible. Every day I was losing. Every day I was getting kicked in the teeth. Every day a business was closing. My house was in and out of foreclosure. I was, checks in the mail lying. Just total survival mode. Total just trying to get through, borrowing money from my wife's mom to get the house out of foreclosure, just trying to survive. And I would come home at between 4, 3 o'clock, whatever time I went home, like everyone in the house knew the first 30 minutes, 45 minutes I came home, no one could talk to me, stay away from me. I'm grabbing Kylie, I'm going upstairs, and we're going to just wrestle around and play on the bed. And that was about less than an hour where my throat wasn't clenched, where I didn't feel like I couldn't breathe, where I didn't feel like everything was falling apart. And it was just so I am every single child. I have 4 children and 3 stepchildren. Every single child are a blessing to me in a different way, and every single one has a different story of how they saved my life in some way, shape, or form. Because the greatest thing that I am is a dad, and every single one of them, I can tell you three stories where they completely saved my life in some way, shape, or form. But for that, it was just like that was what I needed just to make it through. And at 1 o'clock, when I was getting calls that this was going on, or one of the rental properties that I owned was in foreclosure, or blah, 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 tenant. But I just looked and I was like, man, I got 2 more hours left until I can go home and play with Kylie, kind of thing. So that was for that time, that was one of the main things, and then really in the end, I talk about later on in life, when my wife asked me for the divorce, and I felt like everything was falling apart and I was losing everything. Like I felt like all I cared about was the family. I could lose all the money, I could lose property, I could lose all I wanted was, I made a promise that I wasn't ever gonna have a split family. It wasn't
like
gonna
you
have
grew
my
up
kids
with,
at
right?
the time. Yeah. I wasn't gonna replicate that family. And that's what was happening. And that was actually after the look back on it, that was the reason why I wanted to write the book, because I felt like the biggest failure in the world. And I felt like everything was screwed up. And then 2 years later, when everything was really, really great, I felt like if all of this didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. And you don't say, please give me some shit sandwiches to eat. You know what I mean? Please let me get punched in the eye a couple times. You don't ask for that in the moment.
Right.
But when you go through those moments and you do your forensic audit later on and you come back, you track your huge win or your huge accomplishment back through the genealogy. The start of it was that loss, and I got to a point where I was like, I lost everything that I didn't think I could lose, and I'm here, and all those things made me be. I was a bad parent. You know what I mean? At that moment, I was a bad parent. I was so focused on survival, getting through the next day, that I didn't focus on being a good dad, going to my kids' karate, being that, doing all this stuff. I was so focused on survival that I lost all this stuff. I had to go back and be all that stuff again, and to realize that the stuff didn't really matter, like the things that I thought I couldn't lose, I lost, and it made me be a better version of myself. The relationships with my kids wound up being much better after that than they were before. When we had all the stuff, when we had all the things, when everything was going really well, the relationships weren't good. So
Jim, I'm going to nail another win, at least how I saw it anyway, was there as well too. Another win in that column, I would also, is you did something that was unusual, I think, anyway, which is to build what you call a pretty tight friendship with your former wife, Jen. And I feel like that in the co-parenting, I'm not a parent, so I have no skin in this game, but I would say the only thing I would is just knowing parents and knowing so many marriages dissolve, that is probably the touchiest of touchy subjects. And so the fact of the matter is, you're beating yourself up, but I also noticed that that's impressive, because I can only say I believe, I don't know. I believe that the ability to be able to either reclaim relationships with the kids and all, I think that has to be, if it is two adversarial people navigating kids, I would think that's brutal. What gave you the resolve to make sure that you had that friendship?
So the first thing was, you're at a point, if the marriage is over, you're at a point where you kind of already put the kids at a disadvantage. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what, kids don't choose their parents, kids don't choose the situations that they're in. They're just always the unwilling victims. You know what I mean? So we both sat down and had a conversation, and it had to be, we have to remove ego from this completely. And every decision from now on has to be what's best for the kids. It can't be my feelings, your feelings, resentment from years past, blah, blah, blah.
Remember when you said, or blah, 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 blah,
yeah,
all that kind of
no
back.
more scorekeeping,
Okay.
none of that.
Great
Like
choice of words.
we got to move forward.
Mhm.
And always there's an event that happens, right? So there was a time where our relationship was not very good.
Okay.
And my daughter Kylie had fallen and fell into a fire, and it's in the book.
Yep.
And she burned herself pretty bad. And Jen and I, my ex-wife Jen and I, were on not really good speaking terms. You know what I mean? Like it was in just about the separating of living spaces. We lived together for 3 or 4 years, not as a true married couple, just as friends and cohabitating. And my daughter Kylie fell and got really badly burned. And I spent a couple days in the hospital with her. Jen was in there too. Kylie got home. She had horrible burns up and down her arms and our hands. And as part of the treatment, Jen had to clean her wounds twice a day, And I had to watch Jen cry as she cleaned Kylie's arms, and Kylie was crying, but it had to be done. And there was so much love in her taking care of my daughter that I was just like, I'm an asshole for all this negativity that I feel. Like, no matter what, she's a loving human being. She's the mother of my children. And I got to figure out how to be on that same loving level as her.
Right.
The relationship's over. It's dead. It's not coming back. Nothing I do say, or there ain't no magic potion we're going to drink now to fall back in love again. It's over. What can we do to make the feeling of closeness and togetherness that we feel right now together in the room? What can we do to keep that going for forever as co-parents? And we don't agree a lot of times still to this day. You know what I mean? Like we don't agree often. But the kids are always the most important thing. Their best interest always comes first. And I also realized that if I didn't heal that relationship, I couldn't ever move on and have a relationship with another woman. And the relationship that I have now with my wife is awesome. And the reason that it's awesome is because I learned how to heal some of the stuff with Jen in order to bring it over here. And I had to learn all the unhealthy things I did in my relationship so that I could do healthy things in the next relationship, or more healthy things. Not like I'm perfect or anything like that. I still, fall short a million times, but
that's this fail forward, right?
Yeah.
So it's not even taking risks. It's just that you keep getting back. You keep that to me is so important. I want to focus because, like I said, but before I get to Nikki and your current, because it sounds weird for me to say it's a fun story, but I want to go back to this dog thing. It is fun. Listen, I don't know many people. I'm sorry, I'll take that back. I don't know any people that could legitimately throw his name around. So in terms of tell us the Snoop Dogg story of how close you came, which most people don't even get in the ring. So I just, in terms of a business venture that sounded
wonderful. So my brother and I started doing this radio show. I started playing this game that I invented in my mind on what to do in order to kill some time and develop something on the radio show. We were playing it. Everybody really liked it. We turned it into a website. We patented it. We were actually granted the first process patent in fantasy sports in the country. And we started to make it something. We developed it. We worked on it for a couple of years. And one of our business contacts had a relationship with Snoop Dogg. And he is one of the most awesome business people in the world, and he has a thing with his family members and everybody around them where he does not allow them to leech off of him. He allows them to make their living off of his persona and his business, but they have to work in order to get it. You know, you can eat at his table, but you can't eat his food. So one of his his nephew, one of the things the nephew did to make money is he booked appointments. So through his nephew, it was, you know, you pay $5,000 and you got a half an hour to sit down and talk business with Snoop. And so my brother actually was the one who did the appointment with him. I figured as a recovering addict, it probably wasn't the best place for me to be.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and Eric would be a better person at that anyway. So so he wound up. So I got a text message of Eric and Snoop and two other people hanging out in the backstage of the House of Blues in Atlantic City, because that's where the meeting took place. It wound up turned in from a half an hour into 2.5 hours of strategy and all these things. And Snoop runs a youth football league, and he loved the idea and he wanted to be a part of it. And we went through, I don't know, in my head it seems like it was like 60 days, but it could have been any time from 30 days to whatever. But we went through a bunch of different negotiations. We went through a bunch of different things. We talked to various people. We talked to his team, our team, and they decided, okay, we're going to do this. You have to fly out to LA. We're going to have a meeting at the house. We're going to go through all the steps on what we're going to do and how this is going to work. And Snoop will be the spokesperson for your game. That was the thing. We're going to sign a 1-year contract for him to be the spokesperson. So then I had to go quickly and generate revenue based upon Snoop being the spokesperson for the game. I had to talk to millionaires and say, yo, if we have this, will you give us this as seed money? And I had all these deals in place for people to invest money and do this. And we flew out to California, and literally the day before the signing of the contracts, we got a call from his team. And the name of our game was Suicide Fantasy Football.
Right.
And if you're a sports fan and you play a suicide pool, that means every week someone is eliminated that either loses or picks the last thing. And our fantasy football game was, you can pick a person once throughout the season, but you can't use them twice. So if you want to pick Tom Brady, you use Tom Brady week 1, you can't use Tom Brady again for the rest of the season. That was the idea. It was based on a suicide league, suicide pool on there. So his team had a problem with the word suicide in the game. Right. And I was like, we've been doing this for 45 days, guys. Why are we in California now? And you're bringing this up, and it went rapidly downhill to, you know, we had trademarks and patents and we had all this stuff in place. And in a matter of a couple of hours, it was like, hey, you can change everything and rebrand and make it something else and blah, blah, blah. Or we're going to have to decline. And it was just like rug pulled out from under. Right. And the deflation of that was years. It took me years to get over that. That was like worse than any relationship, worse than any, because on the flight to California, my mindset was, this is really happening. Yeah. Like I've had a million fucking brainstorm ideas in my mind. I've had a million things where I swore this was this is the next sticky notes. You know what I mean? This is the next $1 million thing. And it was like, this is really it. We're going to have a business. We're going to have Snoop as our sponsor. It's going to blow up. We're going to get acquired, and I'm going to be filthy rich. I'm going to be able to give my family and their family and their family generational wealth. This is going to be the thing that changes the bloodline of my family. And then it was like, maybe not.
So I'm laughing not because I think it's funny, nor am I laughing because I'm happy about the outcome. Here's what I am thinking though. It's like, honest to God, maybe because like I didn't live that. But what I was reading, and folks, I'm not going to literally read the book out loud to you because like I said, that's for you to do. And I couldn't recommend the book more highly. But one of the things that I was thinking was there are in this book, there are so many steps for success that are not positioned as steps for success. And I would put that one too, because my thought is there's an expression that my brother-in-law, when he was alive, God love him, had said, and he called the expression playing in the bigs. And one of the things I thought about was this. A lot of people don't. Yeah. And the other thing is a lot of people just assume that there's that one and only time, so you better make it work. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself because most often the outcome is not quite what you were thinking it was going to be or in as linear. And if you're putting the pressure on yourself of it's got to be that and it's got to be him and it's got to be today, but that's a lot. But I'm reading and thinking, you've got meetings set, your meeting parameters, you're showing up. The 30-minute meeting goes 2.5 hours. I heard you when you said it was your brother. I heard that, but I mean, it happened. And then the necessary steps, and now we're drawing paperwork and we're off to LA. It's like, okay, how I'm reading it is, all right, for the next opportunity, this will sound weird. Okay, so don't call it suicide. Call it something else. You know what I mean? And if it's not exactly fantasy football, it might be something else. But you've picked up, and that's why I think this book is so important, folks, to read, because there are so many steps to success. It's up to all of us to finish the job. And you don't know when the hell the finish is going to be, which leads to my question, which is now you're a money man again, and you're a finance guru. You've got a great marriage that you're thrilled about. You're now a published author, and things are rolling. You've transformed your body in regards to, like I said, between 75 hard and the way that you eat. What's present day life like for you now?
Ooh, that's a big, complex thing.
Break it down as tiny as you want. I won't know.
So the one thing that I just wanted to say is I talk to people all the time about business and mindset and things like that. And I'm a sports guy. So normally every analogy I ever give in my life is either about women or sports. That's the only two things I can make analogies to. Mm-hmm. I look at myself as I'm a home run hitter. Mm-hmm. Singles hitters don't get in the don't get in the Hall of Fame. You know, you can hit singles all day.
Kyle Schwarber.
Nobody talks about that. The guy who hits the most singles, nobody ever talks about. Mm-hmm. You could strike out 250 times if you hit 50 home runs. That's who they want to talk about. So that's always been my mindset. I'm swinging for the fences. I'm not pulling back. I'm not holding up. And that's what I lost about me when that failed and that went under. I lost that ability for a very long time. For it's probably 10 years. It took me to get over that pain. You know what I mean? There's a big part that people don't think about when you fail publicly, loudly, you know, where because I'm a loud person and I'm a loud promoter and I'm a loud everything. So all of the loud comes back. Now, everyone you see when you go somewhere goes, "Hey, how's Suicide Fantasy Football going?" And you're like, "Kick me in the balls again. Just go here. Let's go." Now I got to explain it to you again. I want to have a T-shirt that says, "Don't ask me about this because it sucked," and blah, blah, you know. So, I didn't want to feel that anymore. Yeah. You know, I didn't want to feel that failure. I didn't want to talk about failure. I just wanted to. I got a job at a cubicle, answering a phone,
Oh.
taking no risk. I didn't want to be in business anymore. I just wanted to pay my bills, provide for my kids, come home, go to work, and years went by where I just didn't have the courage to try anymore. I didn't want to, not that I didn't want to win. I didn't want to lose. I had lost my goal,
Yeah.
And it took me a really long time. And actually, Ed Milet doesn't know who I am, but I knew who he is. And it was, I had started to get a little bit of financial success again. The industry had picked up a little bit, and I had hired a business coach, and I had gotten into a community of people. And there were a lot of things. I was introduced to 75 Hard. I was introduced to a bunch of different things, and I was literally listening to Ed Milet talk about generational wealth and financial freedom. And it was the first time in 10 years that my heart beat like it did when I was getting the Suicide Fantasy Football. And I was on a walk,
right?
And I was listening to headphones, and I went inside and I told my wife, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something, because I got this itch again, and I don't know what it is. And I've listened to a couple things, and I have to readjust my view of failure, because it's killing me to look at it like this. It's killing me to put it in this mindset of a thing to avoid and a thing to get away from. I have to get back to, because I didn't care, you know what I mean? For a long time, I didn't care. I had 3 restaurants that failed before I was 21. You know what I mean? It never bothered me.
Right.
Whenever somebody said, didn't your restaurant go out of business? I was like, I had a restaurant, asshole. You didn't. Shut up. You don't know nothing. You know what I mean? Like, what have you ever done? What chance have you ever taken?
Right.
Whatever. Go get away. And somehow that went to, I don't want to feel this pain again, kind of thing, like the jilted romance kind of thing. And so once I started to feel that rush again, I was like, all right, let's really do some stuff. Let's go here, and moving through and going to things and reading different books and going through. And I was like, you know what? I really wish someone could have refocused me 5 years ago or 7 years ago. I wish I could have seen a book somewhere to talk about reframing failure. I wish I could have listened to someone or heard someone, because there's a million people out there that have tried and failed, and right now are thinking, I don't want to feel that again. And like I said, I know it's the same as the guilt and shame of addiction. I've been there. I know that feeling. I'm the one that relates to that. And my personal coach, Devin, was like, your mess is your message. You can help the person that you were more than anyone else in the world. There's a bunch of people out there that are just like you in your position, and they need you to help them. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's try.
Your willingness, courage, the people around you. Devin and Ed Milet, you pretty much answered that. One of the last questions was the sense that who helped you, and now I got it in this one, because I feel like, and I have a very strong sense when I ask someone else down the line who has either read this book or knows you, and you know a hell of a lot of people, that are a little bit, oh yeah, well, that's because James Butz went through this, and and I could see it and feel it. I think the way that you, as I said, lay out a blueprint in the most unassuming, self-effacing fashion is really powerful in the reading. I've never written a book before. Even if the book was bad, I would have been like, hey, hell, you did it. I just think it's great. I know this is on Amazon. I know it's easy to find. I also know you've got the website, optimizingfailures.com. Is that the best place to find you? What's the best way that you get to you?
Yeah, it's the website is optimizingfailure.com.
Yep.
You can subscribe to a newsletter. I put out some content all the time.
Right.
You know, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, all over the place. Ask Mr. Mortgage.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different forms of media that we're on.
I'll have those links, folks. You don't have to write all that down in the sense that we're not going to give you the audience to do, but I'll have those links right there so that this way we'll make it easy, because James Butz is a guy that needs to be followed.
It's funny. I was just talking to somebody over the last like 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Besides that one little lull in my life.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with confidence. You know, I used to joke with my friends all the time. My current wife is much younger than me and very attractive. My previous wife was younger than me, very attractive.
Yeah.
I've always dated attractive women in my life, and it was because I wasn't afraid of rejection. I wasn't afraid of all these things, and that's always been my secret. I just try. I just go and do it. And if someone says no, I go to the next project. You know what I mean? But when I was getting ready to release this book, there was like a little bit of time where I was procrastinating on the actual publication of it, on just doing the last couple tasks to get it released. And I was like, this book is me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this is my heart, my story.
Yep.
Super vulnerable. Talk about all my flaws, all my weaknesses, all these things. And what if people don't like it? You know what I mean? Or what if people think I'm an asshole? You know what I mean? Or what if there was just a short period of time of self-doubt, you know what I mean? And I've been really, really blessed over the past couple of years to meet a few really wealthy, really successful people. And from them, they've introduced me or been in the room with some really wealthy, really successful people. And I've had like 1 minute or 2 minutes of time with these people. I'm not saying I'm friends with them or anything like that, but I've had brief interactions with people that are in positions that I would like to be in, or in places where I eventually would like to go. And one of the people was talking to me about the negative self-talk, and they were like, it never goes away. It never goes away. You have to accept that it's never going to go away. And this guy speaks in front of 40 or 50,000 people. And he told me that, like, before he walks out on stage, every time his mind tells him, this is the night they find out you're a fake. This is the night. This is the night that they find out you've been bullshitting them the whole time, that you're not really as cool as they think you are. This is when it all falls apart. You might as well just quit and go home now. You've done enough. Just pack it in and leave, because this is there. And I was like, if his mind does that, and he's accomplished 100 times more than I have, then of course my mind's going to do that. And that's just, there's something about me, and there's something about a lot of people that I've spoken to that have that negative self-talk, and I had to just say, I have to accept that, you know, acceptance. It's going to always be like that. It might never go away. Before I do something, my head's probably going to tell me I'm a piece of shit. My head's probably going to tell me now is when I fall on my face. My head definitely told me no one's going to buy this book and no one cares, and you're going to look like an idiot because you're going to put all your stuff out there, and people are going to go, why would we care about that? So it's been really awesome to talk to a few people in an extended conversation that related to things about there. So really honestly, if no one ever buys the book again and no one ever does anything with it, it's already done what it was supposed to do. It's already been where it was supposed to be. It's already helped who it was supposed to help. And I would love to help more people. I would love to give a solution or a blueprint to somebody that is stuck in a space that I was in at one point in time. But if not, I've already accomplished what I wanted to.
Awesome. Living loud, failing hard, the courage to keep going, trusting people around you too, taking the lead, but trusting and listening. And I feel like those are incredible traits that you offer people on a regular basis. Jim Butz, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, John.
Amazing, man. It's been a blast. And folks, you've just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, watching, listening, telling your friends, and we'll keep driving more content through your front door. You want to be more authentic, you want to sound your true and most authentic best, then align with people that are already doing it, like James Butz, and you'll get the chance to optimize failures too. Folks, thanks so much for checking us out. James, again, thank you for being a part of this show.
Have a great time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, have a great rest of the day, and thanks for tuning in. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.